Please join in the covenant and affirmation which is found in your order of worship. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
We would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people. We pay respects to all those indigenous peoples who nourished this land before us, and we strive to do likewise.
I invite all the young and young at heart to come forward for the time for all ages.
They're all for charity.
Yes. Our story is The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm. Very funny, Vashti said. I just can't draw. Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see what happens. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There. The teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, now, sign it. Vashti thought for a moment. Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name. The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot that she had drawn. Her dot. And framed in swirly gold. I can make a better dot than that. She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow. She discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting, lots of mini dots in different colors. If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw even a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew the line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Please sign it." The end. Now a time for joys and sorrows. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. I invite you to take in a breath in and out, settling into your body, settling into your pew or chair or bed for those who might be joining online, or couch. Just let your body rest where it is. And I invite you to just take a moment to pay attention to the sounds around you, the sounds of the room. Notice the sounds you hear and what you don't hear. Invite you to pay attention to any smells that might be in the air. And then pay attention to the feel of your body resting against wherever it is sitting or laying. I invite you to take another breath in and out. And open your heart to whatever is calling you at the moment. Let that fill your heart, your mind. Spend time reflecting on what is true for you right in this moment. And now, in your own pace, in your own time, take another breath and return to this space, or the space you are in, as we end our meditation. Blessed be. Please rise in body or spirit for our second hymn, number 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Sorry. This is an improv service, clearly, today. Now, I wanted to light a candle for those of our congregation who are at Ferry Beach that we may come together in the spirit of community as they are also holding their worship service now. So, sorry about that.
Thank you. Our reading this morning is by Tina Fey. The first rule of improvisation is agree. Always agree and say yes. When you're improvising, this means you are required to agree with whatever your partner has created. So if we're improvising and I say, freeze, I have a gun, and you say, that's not a gun, that's your finger. Our improvised scene has ground to a halt. But if I say, freeze, I have a gun, and you say, the gun I gave you for Christmas, then we have started a scene because we have agreed that my finger is in fact a Christmas gun. Now, obviously in real life, you're not going to agree with everything everyone says. But the rule of agreement reminds you to respect what your partner has created and to at least start from an open-minded place. Start with a yes and see where that takes you. As an improviser, I always find it jarring when I meet someone in real life whose first answer is no. No, we can't do that. No, that's not in the budget. No, I will not hold your hand for $1. What kind of way is that to live? The second rule of improvisation is not only to say yes, but yes and. You are supposed to agree and then add something of your own. If I start a scene with, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you just say, yeah, we're kind of at a standstill. But if I say, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you say, what did you expect? We're in hell. Or you say, yes, this can't be good for the wax figures. Or you say, I told you we shouldn't have crawled into that dog's mouth. Now, we're getting somewhere. To me, yes and means don't be afraid to contribute. It's your responsibility to contribute. And always make sure you're adding something to the discussion. Your initiations are worthwhile. This month, we share our weekly offering with Southeast India Project. You may donate with a check made out to First Parish Church, online at the website, or text 978-310-3309. The offering for the good works of this congregation will be gratefully received. Good morning. It is great to be here with you. Reverend Cindy is a good friend of mine. For several years, we served on a committee together, and I just moved back to the area this summer, so I was she almost immediately sent out an invitation for me to come preach. So I am glad to be here. And there was a ministers chapter meeting probably 10 to 15 years ago here. So, and I was seemed familiar, and then I saw the carriage house and was like, oh yeah, I've been here. That was a good sign, because not many churches have that. So it was a good memory. So glad to be back into this space. So our service today is grounded in improv. And many people, when they hear improv, think of the show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Did that occur to any other people when they saw the improv? Yes, that was, yeah. And improv has many roots, but that is just one aspect of improv. Improv is also about telling stories, being in the moment in relationship with others, and shaping something that may emerge just in the moment. And in reality, we are improvising all the time because we never really know what's going to happen in the next moment. We have great plans of what's going to happen in the next moment, but that doesn't always happen. So we are in some ways wired to improvise from day to day. And I think of improv as central to ministry. One, in a practical place, because thinking of part of improv is being very present to what is happening around. And the mindfulness meditation that we did, that to me, that is the spiritual practice I use to help me be a better improviser. Because it helps me remember to be completely present to the person I'm with, the scene that we are creating, and being able to notice even what's happening around the room. And that just awareness really helps. And then making my next action relate to what is going on around me. But I also think that improv gives us tools to be able to do ministry. And when I talk about ministry, I'm not just talking about the ministry that the minister does, but the ministry of the church, the ministry that we all have as we engage the world. So I want to share with you the pieces of improv I think that are important to help us live out our faith in the world. So the first rule of improv, as Tina Fey told us, was to start from a place of yes. Now, one of the oldest improvisers and one who actually founded the type of improv that Whose Line Is It Anyway comes from. Also, if you have heard of the comedy sports, he was the one who developed that sort of improv. And he writes that there are people who prefer to say yes, and there are people who prefer to say no. Those who say yes are rewarded by the adventures they have, and those who say no are rewarded by the safety they attain. There are far more no-sayers than yes-sayers. But you can train one type to behave like the other. And I think that's really important because we need to have that balance, to be able to say yes more often, to try things out, to have more adventures, to risk more things. But we also need to have some way of saying no so that we have some boundaries within that we do keep ourselves safe, that we have an understanding of the world in which we're living in, how we are engaging. So we need to find that balance. But since many of us are much easier to say no than yes, improv can help us learn to say yes more often. In our Time for All Ages, I would say that Vashti's teacher was a yes-sayer. She saw this sheet of paper with a dot on it and decided to say yes to that and had Vashti sign it and then have it framed. Saying yes to what was just a simple mark of frustration all of a sudden became a work of art. And so as we think about saying yes, it invites us to lean a little more into what is possible. How can I accept what is being created in front of me? Now, I don't want to say that saying that if you accept the situation or things that are in front of you that you have to agree. Because those are actually two different things. And sometimes I think we mix them together, that by accepting we are agreeing. But we can accept the situation in front of us, but not agree with it and want it to change. But if we move to a place of not accepting what the person is saying, that the reality that they are engaging us with is their reality, then their immediately defenses will go up when you deny their very understanding of the world. And so you have gotten rid of any way of having a conversation or helping them move towards change. So as Tina Fey says, we are asked to respect what your partner has created. So just think about how engaging the world, as you're going through and you are, some people it's easier to say yes to than others. But think about if you're someone that had difficulty saying yes to, how you can respect the world they are living in as their world, and then find ways that you can engage them from that vantage point and see where you might be able to move. Of course, it's helpful if they are also willing to say yes as well. It's much harder for you to always be the yes person. And if you find yourself in that situation, that's when you can learn to say, it's time to say no now. So I'm not advocating that you have to just continue to say yes. Learn your boundaries and your limits and your own self-care and needs. But also try engaging someone else's world and seeing how you might be able to move to a different place. But it's not just yes, it's yes and. Okay? We are required to contribute something. And so, as Tina Fey gave the long scene about, saying, I can't believe it's so hot in here, if you just say yeah, then you haven't added anything and there's nothing to move. But if you start adding ideas like, being in hell or, worrying about the wax figures or calling into a dog's mouth, you've created something there and there's something to work with. And for me, yes and is all about collaboration. And as I think about ministry, that means that we are to work together. That is not the role of one person to do everything, that we are sharing in the work to making ministry happen. That as we engage with others, that we have something to contribute, we have something to share. And then we can build off of each other. And it can be really interesting to see that once you start building off of each other and each one is yes-anding, some amazing things can happen. That is where the energy starts to rise and ideas start to come, and all of a sudden what might seem difficult or impossible says, well, maybe we can do that, or maybe this change can happen, or maybe we will make it through this budget cycle, or all those different things that happen in our lives. Now, the rule of improv that I learned when I took classes at Improv Boston that I never heard anywhere else, and for me it seems to be the most important rule, is make your scene partner look good. And this is really thinking about, how can I bring out the best in every person that I meet? That, to me, speaks to our universalism. That sense that we are looking at and seeing the good in every person, that we are part of a love that is so strong that it inspires us to be our best. And then as partners in that larger love, that we are drawing out the best in others. And so that means that if we know that something is difficult for someone, we won't put them in a place that they're going to have to do that and they're going to struggle. It actually asks you what is their gifts? What are their strengths? How can we amplify that? How can we pull on all the strengths of everyone in this congregation and have them work together from those places, and not from the places where they struggle or they're not good at, but they're put in this position to do because no one is actually willing to do it. I think that making our scene partner look good is such a exciting possibility of how we can move in the world. I mean, can you imagine going through the world and everybody is trying to make the other person look good? We would be in a very different place. And that, to me, is the world that I want to live in, where we're all bringing out the best in others. That, to me, is what the beloved community can be, that place that we are seeing each other truly and bringing out the possibilities that are there. But no matter what we do in improv, we have to be willing to fail. Because if we're not willing to fail, then we're not willing to try anything that will succeed. So we have to be willing to continue to try. And I think of, and I try to think of failing as not as something that, a huge emotional, I let everything down, but an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for growth. I taught a class at Meadville Lombard called Ministry as Improv, and one of the first exercises we did was called I Failed, where I invited the group to say, I failed, with as much enthusiasm as they could, to shift the nature. So I'm going to invite you. You didn't know this was going to be participatory. Just this bit. But I'm going to invite you to say, I failed, with enthusiasm. All ready? I failed. Can you do it even bigger? I failed. Just one more time, just as big as you can. I failed. If we can bring that energy into what it means to make mistakes, to fail, that won't feel as bad anymore. And it actually allows us to take a moment and says, okay, what am I learning from this? what can we do differently to maybe move to success? Now, I also think that when we fail, sometimes somebody might get harmed in that place, and then we have to do the work of repair, the accountable work. And that accountability is an important part of being willing to fail, is also then to make amends if someone is hurt in that failure. But I think that actually that is a good thing, that to actually hold that accountable relationship, because that also reminds us that none of us are perfect, and we all make mistakes, and as good universalists, we can always make amends, that we are never lost, that hope is still there, that we can repair and come back into relationship. So I invite you to think about the collaborative relationship that you have as a congregation. You as members and the minister and staff, how you work together to live our UU values out in the world. And as you engage this idea of your ministry, this congregation's ministry, I invite you to begin with yes. And be in a spirit of collaboration that brings out the best in each and every one of you. All the while just trying and risking new things to see what may come. I invite you to ground your shared ministry together in improv and see where it takes you. You may never know what might be next, and you may be very excited about it. Blessed be. Please rise and body your spirit for number 1024 in the teal hymnal, When the Spirit Says Do. So before we close, I just also wanted to just extend gratitude to our improvised ushers for this morning, for coming in and just being present and living into the spirit of the service today. So our benediction is an improv spirit. As we go forth from this time together, may we draw upon an improv spirit, starting from a place of yes, contributing what we can, bringing out the best of everyone we meet, and failing forward into growth and learning. Blessed be.